Hello and welcome to another episode of the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football Channel. I am your host, Jacob Brown. Week 1's in the books. We're moving on to week 2 after a pretty crazy Seattle-Denver game. I had a great week 1. Very profitable. If you want to check out how I did, you can go to my video that I posted yesterday discussing how I did on the week 1 main slate for Draftkings. We're about to cover week 2 again. Hopefully we can hit this back to back. We're 1-0 right now. Feeling pretty good about it. So let's go ahead and cover the implied totals as of right now for week 1. But before we do, if you enjoyed this content, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to see more content just like this. And also tell me how your week 1 went. Who made you a lot of money? Who lost you a lot of money? Let me know in the comments section. But let's get after it. Week 2 implied team totals. Next. So let's take a look at these implied team totals. For starters, there's a lot of heavy favorites for week 2. Let's go ahead and go over it. The Los Angeles Rams are favored by 10.5 with an implied team total of 28.75 against the Atlanta Falcons with an over-under of 47, which is kind of interesting. Then we move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. They're 6-point favorites with a 28.75 implied team total with a 51.5 over-under. This is probably going to be the game to attack week 2. And funny thing here is this is like the ultimate redemption slate for quarterbacks. You got Matthew Stafford, who played terrible week 1. You got Derek Carr, who did not win in the big moment against the Chargers last week. You got Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, who just got embarrassed by the Seattle Seahawks after being probably the most popular favorite in all of week 1. You got Cincinnati, who got embarrassed by Pittsburgh. There's another one there. This is like the ultimate redemption slate. So, top 3 quarterbacks are pretty simple in my opinion, but let's go ahead and go through the rest of this implied team total here. So you got the Raiders, Cardinals, probably going to be the best game on the slate. And how can I forget mentioning Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray got just embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. There's another guy. It's just the ultimate redemption slate. Denver Broncos taking on the Houston Texans with a 28 implied team total. They're 10-point favorites with a 46 over-under. That's definitely going to be another interesting one. San Francisco 49ers have an implied team total of 26.25 and a spread of 10-point favorites, and they got an over-under of 42.5. Here's a very interesting one. I think this is going to be extremely close. You got the Detroit Lions taking on the Washington Commanders. Detroit's implied team total is 25.75. They're a 2-point favorite, and they have an over-under of 49. This is definitely something we're going to have to consider when making lineups. Is this Detroit-Washington game? Definitely a close one. And now you got the Colts. Someone else we didn't mention. Matt Ryan disappointed tremendously week 1 as well, tying with the Houston Texans. Now they're playing another division game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got an implied total of 25.5. They're 4-point favorites with a 47 over-under. Can they perform and get the W, or are they going to choke again? We'll have to find out. We already discussed Cincinnati and Dallas. I think this is a great turnaround spot for Joe Burrow. And as of right now, I'm not really seeing anything else notable to mention. Just those top few games there. This is going to be a weird slate. I just already got that feeling. But that's what we're here for. The good, the bad, the ugly, the weird. We're here for it. And I'm very excited about it. But let's go ahead and go over the quarterbacks you should be interested in for week 1. So these week 2 first look top 5 quarterbacks are pretty simple. I mean, Kyler Murray at the top's in an ultimate redemption spot in a great game environment. Hopefully he can get Rondale Moore back. I haven't necessarily looked into the injury reports just yet, but by the time we have our final thoughts video, we'll have a great idea of where to look at if Rondale Moore is in or out. Russell Wilson, another redemption spot here. Their first home game, his first home game as a Bronco, should be very interesting. I love this price point for him at $7,200. This could very well be the cheapest we see him all year if he just goes nuclear like we know he's capable of doing. Joe Burrow, his price went up mainly due to the ownership, I believe, at $6,600. Playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have a pretty good defense. We saw them pretty much hang in there with Tom Brady majority of the game. I really think that they should be able to do a lot better now that Dak's not the quarterback for the Cowboys. He got injured. That just means more 3-and-outs and more reasons why the Cowboys defense is going to be on the field. The Cowboys defense will eventually get gassed, and Joe Burrow is probably going to take advantage of that situation. So don't pay attention to this 10th over here by offensive position ranking. It doesn't mean much, especially just the way this game environment is looking like it's going to be. This is probably one of my favorite ones. I know I was hyping up Joe Burrow all of last week, but late in the week, Saturday, Sunday morning, I kind of just veered away from Joe Burrow. But there's a possibility that I'll be very interested in him in week 2. Matthew Stafford at $6,300 is just way too cheap. People at Draftkings reacted to this very drastically, and I'm hoping that his ownership's not going to be super high because of it. But $6,300 for a guy that's throwing the ball to the best wide receiver, or one of the best wide receivers in the game, in Cooper Kupp, very hard pill to swallow there. I mean, I hope the ownership doesn't go up on him, but if it does, I'm still going to play him because that's a great price point for him, especially taking on the Atlanta Falcons. They're 10-point favorites. They're going to score points because of Stafford. I mean, it's just obvious. So he's just the obvious play in my opinion. And then another guy that has one of the best, or if not the best, wide receiver in all of the NFL, and Devontae Adams, Derek Carr. $6,200 is super cheap for him, especially in this game environment. We just saw what Patrick Mahomes did to this Cardinals defense. I think this is a prime spot for Derek Carr and Devontae Adams just to go off. I mean, Devontae Adams still played very well last week, but I mean, him and Carr together, watch out. Carr, Waller, you name it, they can do it. So yeah, I'm very interested in that price point. One more name I will mention is Cooper Rush. He's at $5,000 flat. I don't see why you wouldn't want to play him in cash games. I mean, Mr. Trubisky just played pretty well against the Cincinnati defense. I don't see why Cooper Rush couldn't do the same. So yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on. Cooper Rush is only a cash game play for me, not a tournament play. But if y'all are willing to play him in cash, that's what I think we should be doing as of right now. So now we're moving on to the week 2 first look, top 8 running backs. Yeah, that's right, 8 running backs that I'm interested in week 2 just based off of stats. So we got Jonathan Taylor at the top, who just obviously looked like the best running back in all of fantasy football week 1 against the Houston Texans. So I'm definitely going to be interested in him against that Jacksonville defense. We saw what Antonio Gibson did to that Jacksonville defense just 1 week ago. So definitely have interest. He should be considered in all of your lineups, especially if you're only playing a select few. Christian McCaffrey kind of disappointed us last week. Only 15 Draftkings points. I'm definitely giving him another shot, though. I think he's got some great opportunities coming ahead, and I'm not going to let one game ruin that. One thing to mention is he was still a top leader in snap count. He was on the field a lot, like I want to say in the 80 percentile. So that is something to keep an eye on as we're going into week 2. Joe Mixon was a top leader in targets. He was a top leader in red zone carries inside the 5. Very impressive. DeAndre Swift was another guy that was super impressive. And at $7,000, I mean, you got to consider playing him. Same thing with Joe Mixon. Like, his price point didn't really go up very much from what it was last week. I think it just went up $100, and I think DeAndre Swift just went up $200. Definitely very interested in these two guys here. James Conner looked great. I mean, if this game would have been a bit more competitive, I think he would have been doing even better than what he did. But yeah, $6,900 for him is still too cheap. Definitely going to be one to roster him. Javonte Williams was the leader in targets for running backs in week 1 with 11. Very impressive. I mean, he looked like the RB1 should look. And having those targets and Draftkings scoring system where catches mean a lot with PPR purposes, you're going to want to roster guys like Javonte Williams. You're going to want to roster guys like DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey, guys to get catches. Very interested. I got Ezekiel Elliott on here. I think they're going to have to run a lot of the offense through him next week against the Bengals. $5,900 is also a big, like, what? He's how much? I'm just shocked. I don't even think I've ever seen Ezekiel Elliott this cheap at all. So this is definitely new for me. I don't know if I'm going to end up changing my mind about this as we get closer to our final thoughts video. But as of right now, this price point just sticks out like a sore thumb. And I definitely want pieces of Ezekiel Elliott. Now we move on to Darrell Henderson. He was the leader in snap counts. Or no, he was the second in snap counts last week. I think he had about 83% snap share in week 1. Outsnapped everyone on his team. Cam Akers. I guess Cam Akers is not a thing anymore. So if we're just going based off last week, I'm highly interested in rostering Darrell Henderson for week 1. Or week 2. My bad. Alright, now we're moving on to the top 10 wide receivers that you should have interest in. Here's 1 through 5. Cooper Kupp looked amazing. He still got it. He's still up there as one of the best wide receivers in all of fantasy football. Play him. You get to Devontae Adams, though, however, $86,000 just seems a little too cheap to me. If we're going to get to a top dollar wide receiver, I think you got to play Devontae Adams over Cooper Kupp this week. That's just my opinion. As of right now. Jamar Chase went up almost $900, I believe. Against this Dallas Cowboys defense, I'm a little hesitant, but I think he's going to be a great tournament play. Tyreek Hill played very well week 1. Showed out with some catches I was just surprised he made. He's now at $7,100. I'm interested. I wanted pieces of him. I don't care if it's against Baltimore. I don't care who it's against. Tyreek Hill has slate breaking potential on any given Sunday. Michael Pittman Jr., man, that price went up pretty quick. What was he, $5,500? Now he's gone up $1,200. still a great play. I still think he's cash game viable even at that price point. This is a great contest with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm down for it. I'm going to be rostering him, and I think you should too. Here's our Week 2 first look, top 10 wide receivers 6 through 10. At the top we got Courtland Sutton, who played pretty well against the Seahawks, just didn't get the job done. I think this is going to be Russell Wilson's favorite target on the team. Just looks pretty clear to me as of right now. Christian Kirk at 5,700 had 12 targets. Definitely going to want pieces of him in the weeks to come. Allen Robinson underperformed tremendously. Only had 2 targets off of 1 catch. Only 2.2 Draftkings points against the Buffalo Bills. Very disappointing. Tyler Boyd looks like he's going to be getting a bump in usage now that T. Higgins is dealing with a concussion. T. Higgins is not going to practice much this week. I don't know the severity of the concussion, but he's got to pass concussion protocol, I believe, more than one time before he actually gets to play. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. And lastly, we got to talk about Curtis Samuel. He had great usage for Washington. He was the target leader on the Commanders, I believe with 11 targets. So he's definitely somebody that we should be considering rostering in cash games, any format. He just looks great, and I'm hoping he can continue the success. At $4,600, that's just too cheap for Curtis Samuel. Now we're moving on to the first look, top 5 tight ends for Week 2. Mark Andrews at the top has dropped $400 less, just due to a poor performance Week 1, but I think he's going to bounce back right away, and at that price point, it's kind of hard to ignore. Dalton Schultz at $5,200 looks to probably be the security blanket for Cooper Rush in Week 2. I'm interested to see what Schultz can do. He should definitely be someone you consider rostering. Tyler Higbee led. I don't think he led, but he was in like the top 3 in targets for tight ends with like 11 or 12. Some high number close to that. $4,200, and Stafford being somebody that I'm interested in this week, definitely going to want to roster some Tyler Higbee. Albert, I just call him Albert, okay? He looked pretty good last night against the Seahawks with Russell Wilson at the helm. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be wanting to roster him for Week 2. And then Evan Ingram, I got some interest in Evan Ingram just due to the fact that O.J. Howard looked so good against the Colts defense last week with the Houston Texans. I can see a version of this game where Evan Ingram can repeat that same success. Maybe not 2 touchdowns, but I think he will play a pretty good game against the Colts, who are one of the worst teams against tight ends in all of football. So here's our first look for Week 2 cash game lineup. We got Cooper Rush at the top at quarterback. I think he's just too cheap to pass up. It can get you a lot of different pieces in the rest of your lineup, so why not? Then we got Christian McCaffrey. I'm picking Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor. I think McCaffrey's going to have a huge bounce back week. No concerns on McCaffrey for me. Then we got Joe Mixon at $7,200. He was a leader in the red zone carries last week. He had 27 carries in total. He had 10 targets. I can't remember how many catches off the top of my head, but Joe Mixon was heavily utilized even when playing from behind, and usually running backs aren't that utilized when playing from behind. So I definitely am impressed with Joe Mixon's usage Week 1, so he's definitely a cash game play for me. Christian Kirk at $5,700 with 12 targets looked pretty good in Week 1. I can't stay away from him. I think he's cash game viable. Michael Pittman Jr. at $6,700. He went nuclear Week 1. I don't care if the price point went up damn near $1,200. He's a must play in Week 1 in all formats. Curtis Samuel, I'm a little hesitant on playing him in the cash game, but as of right now, he looks really good. due to the usage that we saw week 1. Evan Ingram we just discussed. Looks like a pretty interesting play. If Doug Peterson can get Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert to look good, he should be able to do the same with Evan Ingram. I can't wait to see it. Cortland Sutton looked like a great option for Russell Wilson week 1. Got him heavily targeted. I think he's a great cash game play, the epitome of a cash game play here in week 2. Someone I'm definitely going to be rostering. And then we got the New York Jets defense at $2,200. No big stance on defense yet. We'll have a better idea of what defenses we want to take a stance on our final thoughts video. Here's our way too early favorite stack. We're wanting to stack up the Rams with the run back option from the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, my favorite stack has to be the Stafford, Kupp, Allen Robinson, Kyle Pitts run back option for the Los Angeles Rams. I think Allen Robinson's primed for a bounce back spot after everyone being down on him after his performance against the Buffalo Bills. I love this spot for him. I'm definitely going to be taking shots at him in tournaments. So here's my first look GPP lineup. We have our stack with Stafford, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp in a run back option, Kyle Pitts. Then we got Ezekiel Elliott at running back in a one-off role. And then we got DeAndre Swift in a mini stack with Curtis Samuel from the Washington Commanders. And then we got Ashton Dolan as a one-off. And we got the Jets defense as a one-off. I really like this lineup. I'm very shocked that Zeke's that cheap. Definitely want to get some lineups with him involved. I think he's going to be a great value play this week. I believe in the Rams stack this week. It's going to probably be one of my favorite stacks. But that could possibly change when we get later in the week. But as of right now, it looks very interesting. Cooper Kupp's just a all-around great play. Any format. Allen Robinson, I'm hoping he can get that bounce back stop that everybody's been wanting him to get. And I'm not giving up on Matthew Stafford yet. So, yeah, this is my small field favorite GPP lineup for here on our week 2 first look. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and that notification bell if you want to see more content just like this. We'll be having a top stacks video coming out by Thursday. Then we'll have our final thoughts video come out Saturday. So, yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football channel.